Ask Reddit. Girls of Reddit who have rejected people, what's the worst way someone has taken it? My sister got followed home by a dude she rejected. He went up to the house and started talking to her kids and telling them he was their new dad. Luckily, real dad came out in his police attire. Put a real quick end to that. Edit. Want to clear up some confusion. My sister and the real dad are married, not divorced or anything. The guy followed her home from the hospital she works at, where he was a patient under her care. He made a move on her. She said no. There was no relationship between them besides nurse/patient. Well, maybe not in his eyes. I refer to my brother-in-law as my brother, mostly cause I'm too lazy to type it out, but also cause he's been in my life since I was a little kid. Brother was not threatening the man as a cop, but instead as a father. He just happened to be getting ready to leave for work at the same time. The guy ended up getting transferred to another hospital to be closer to his family after complications from overdosing. This is a slightly different take, but I turned a guy down for a date and he then posted a long snap story about how much he loves his wife, that he had neglected to mention all that time. Cheaters will often do stuff like that when they feel guilty for trying to cheat. Called me an ugly whore and said no one would ever want to frick me. He didn't like when I asked how I could both be unfrickable and a whore. I had actually heard of a lot of people doing this before, but I'd never had it happen to me, and when it did it was completely devastating. He told me I had to go out with him, or he would kill himself. He then said goodbye, very convincingly and emotionally, and turned his phone off/stopped picking up or answering any texts I knew him from when we went to high school together, and so I actually had his best mates and his dad's phone numbers. I phoned them and sent the screenshots of the messages to them. Absolutely hysterical and worrying that he was in a gutter somewhere. However, it was very quickly freaking discovered by his livid father that he was actually round a mate smoking weed, and he thought that this would at least get him a pity shag. What a complete and utter twat. We went on one date and I declined a second. A couple of days after that, he called me and told me what I had been wearing that day. This went on for a couple of months. I'd literally never see him, but at least 3 times a week he'd know exactly what I wore. When I was a nanny, I was walking around with the baby in the pram, and we visited a bookshop. A man in there started talking to me, and then asked me out. Very kindly, keeping my father's advice in mind about being kind when I have to reject men when they ask me out. I said that was a nice offer, but my boyfriend might not to be too keen on it. His response to that was to lean in and try and kiss me. I told him to get the fuck off me. He then exploded with rage and started screaming in my face. I was saved by the bookstore employee. The man stormed out of the shop. I spent the next few hours shaking like a leaf. What a champion. He was 15 at the time, and although the rejection happened over the phone, he was so irate that he illegally drove a car to the nearest place he knew to where my house was. I'd once told him I lived near the hospital, and waited there demanding I give him more accurate directions to my house. In retrospect, I probably should have been more terrified than I was. By getting nudes from another girl, cropping her face out, and showing them to everybody saying it was me. He broke into my house and chased me into my bedroom, then spent 10 minutes shouting through my locked bedroom door that I should come out and have a reasonable conversation with him, adult to adult. He shoved me into a wall and busted my head open. I was taking a break at work behind the building listening to music and enjoying the breeze, and coworker I constantly tried to avoid because he was a creep started asking me out. I'd already been irritated because of shitty customers and the overbearing heat inside, so instead of the usual brush-off reply, I snapped at him and made it clear I was in no way interested, had a boyfriend whom I loved, and that he needed to get the frick out of my personal space. I went to walk away, and he grabbed my arm to twist me around trying to back me against the wall, and when I managed to finally rip my arm away and press him back to get him off me, he got pissed, shoved me. Back of my head hit the wall, split open about 1.5 inches, bled a lot, had to get about 7 stitches. He got fired and also arrested for assault. He tried to say I had hit him first, but luckily there was a camera around back that caught the whole thing. In high school I turned a guy down, so he went around spreading rumors that he tried to frick me, but my vagina was deformed and practically closed up. He spent the rest of the year talking shit about how nasty I was, unclean, unshaven, etc. Sometime about 5 years ago, he tried to add me on Facebook, and I blocked him. Frick that guy. I spent months trying to convince people I knew how to wash my asshole. I turned down a guy that was known for being the popular guy, and I thought he was a bit of a dickhead. When he tried to kiss me, I turned my head the other way, said I wasn't interested and walked off. He grabbed my hand, spat in my face, and said I missed the best opportunity in my life and the only reason he tried to kiss me was because he pitied me. I'd gone out with a guy once that I met through a dating site, and we just didn't click. I told him exactly that, was very respectful of his feelings, and wished him the best. He was not receptive at all. He called me a whore, told me that he was going to find where I lived, and push me into oncoming traffic. Really awful things. He wouldn't stop texting me horrible stuff about how I was a gigantic bitch, a total cunt for leading him on, and that he hoped that someone raped me. I blocked his number, which thankfully stopped the messages, reported him onto the dating app, and thankfully never heard from him again. It was legit one of the scariest frigging things. Dude was unhinged. Guy asked me out during an Uber pool ride. I told him I wasn't interested, and he started moving closer and asking me why I wasn't interested and what was wrong with him. It was uncomfortable to say the least. My Uber driver, for some reason, thought it was hilarious to see me pressed against the door to try and get away from this random guy invading my personal space. Thankfully no one has threatened my life. He stopped his car in the middle of an intersection and just kept slamming his fists on the steering wheel. He sent me an email with a 3-page essay attached. It was written entirely in third person, recounting his first rejection by a girl named Tania at the age of 16. There were a lot of solitary beach walks, she's the perfect girl talk, him not talking no for answer, and the story eventually ends with him drinking antifreeze, slipping into a coma, hospitalized and eventually recuperating, only to tell poor Tania that she could avoided his and his parents' pain by agreeing to date him. The email said, "So you know what you are getting into." I was 19 and did not see this extreme level of crazy coming, but knew I needed to really make how I felt clear. I immediately called him to reiterate that I do not want to be with him. I no longer want to be friends with him, and if he contacted me again I would change my number. I'll let a friend of his know what was going on. 5 days later he called from a different number to tell me he was out in the country, one with a gun to his head, and if I didn't agree to be with him then and there he was pulling the trigger. I lied and convinced him I had to leave because I had a family emergency, aunt sick in the hospital, but we would talk the next day. Had mutual friend call him and report back as he suspected he was full of shit. Sure enough I was right, he was totally fine. He called the next day and with the most sing-song creepy serial killer tone said, "You think you're so nice. What type of shitty human being doesn't agree to what someone needs when they tell you they are going to kill themselves? You piece of shit." I lost the plot. Told him I'm changing my numbers, and the next time he contacts me, it will be the police involved. He just laughed the whole time and told me he hopes I die alone, like I deserve. Radio silence for 6 years, until I'm getting married. I have an email from him. "Hey, wow, it's been a while. How are you? Would be so great to catch up sometime. Freaking psychotic asshole." Obviously I never replied and changed my email again. I also once had a guy send me hundreds of text messages calling me all kinds of names, cursing me out, and threatening me because I didn't have sex with him after our entirely lackluster first and last date. I didn't even bother reading beyond the first 50, just let him go on and on until I blocked and mass deleted. Still, it was nuts. He called me roofie bait, and then followed me around campus for a couple months. He told me he had considered trying to get me pregnant, so I would have to marry him. Back in high school, he pretended to want the same friendship I was looking for. He ended up locking me in his room, threw my phone out of reach, and sexually assaulted me until I worked my way free. As I sat in my car, he casually walked out, handed me my phone, telling me he'd text me later, and I got to learn to live with him in classes, while he acted like nothing ever happened. Edit. I expected this to get buried, but I wanted to clear up what happened afterwards. I didn't report him, because I considered him such a good friend for a considerably long time. The experience, luckily, did not amount to rape, which is why I'm using the term sexual assault. At the time, I wasn't entirely sure it was sexual assault. Things like, maybe I asked for it, or I'm just overreacting, ran through my mind. It was a year afterward, when I finally came to the realization, and by that time I both didn't care, and, sorry to say this, didn't want to see a kid who was successful in college, and in a healthy long-term relationship be brought down by rumors. Not what I want to call it, but what a majority of the world would today. This isn't a great answer, but it's the only answer I have for my inaction. You have been visited by the chunk of good luck. Good fortune will I've been high for over a year. I pick up THC oil or marijuana buds, either 3.5 grams of the oil or 7 grams of buds per week. I smoke every 2 hours ish, sometimes more often, without fail from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed every day. I'm a college student studying medical coding. I have over 95% in all of my classes. But yeah, I've been high for over a year now. I ghosted my boyfriend of 5 years. I came over to his house one morning to surprise him with breakfast and a video game he wanted, only to find him naked, asleep, and with his ex curled up in his arms. He didn't hear me coming, so I closed his bedroom door, and left his breakfast and game on the kitchen counter along with my key to his house. I went to my car, deactivated my Facebook, and blocked him on all other forms of social media. I then called my phone provider to change my number before driving off. I texted family members and close friends that we were no longer together and to block him on social media as well. I didn't tell them why. I was in a position to end the lease of my apartment early, and I started a new job in a different city later that week. I completely removed myself from him and didn't offer a shred of explanation or opportunity for dialogue. I disappeared from his life. I once left lesbian hentai in the search history on the family computer as a kid, and my dad took the blame for me. Sorry, Dad. When I was a kid, I told my parents I only liked dark chocolate, so my little brother got the blame for eating all the other chocolate when I was the one who ate them. I stole over $20,000 in a very creative way in the 90s. I worked at a fast food chain in the 90s when I was in high school. When I worked there, they were in the process of phasing out denominational gift certificates. $5, $10, and $25. The way it worked was, if you spent more than half of the certificate, they gave you the cash back. So if you ordered $5.50 worth of food and gave them one of the $10 gift cards, they gave you the $4.50 back in cash. My manager was in charge of destroying all the existing certificates as we transitioned to the more traditional credit card looking gift cards. So my manager said he shredded the certificates like he was supposed to. But one night when I was closing, I found 2 boxes of the gift cards tucked deep in the dry storage room. They were filled with the certificates that were supposed to be shredded. So, I scooped them up, brought them out to the dumpster in trash bags and threw them away. After we closed, I came back and recovered the bag, and brought the certificates home. I counted them. There were $1,025, $1,010, and $505 certificates. None of them had expiration dates. Total haul was $40,000 in fast food certificates. My manager never said a word. He couldn't. He had reported them destroyed weeks earlier. Over the next 3 years, my girlfriend and I toured every location in our state, and the next 4 states ordering food, and getting the change. We never kept track on a spreadsheet or anything, but we got good at knowing what menu items were just about half. After the first year, we started saving the change in a shoebox and let it build up. I bought my first car for $7,800 cash from the change, and for some reason a kiddie cone was $1.05. If you gave them a $5 cert, they gave you $3.95 back. We threw away a lot of kiddie cones. I thought I was a pretty good dad until I was tested. My son threw a snowball at me and I instinctively blocked it with my daughter. The look of betrayal on her snow-covered face has haunted my dreams for years. Found out my dead best friend was in love with my wife. I'm writing this as a confession because I don't know where else to speak about this and I don't want my kids finding this out on my main account. My friend died a few months back due to heart problems. He was taking care of himself, so it was a shock to everyone, especially his wife who was with him at their house when he died. Due to this, she decided to move somewhere else and, because she and her daughter were still distraught, she asked me to pack up his stuff. He had some boxes in his basement and after a while I started feeling nostalgic and decided to look into them. I found pictures of us from when we were kids all the way to before we got married. That was enough to make me feel bad and I just got back to taping them up. But one of the boxes seemed to be in much better condition, so I decided to check it in case it was something important. To my surprise, I found out pictures of him and my wife from when we used to hang out together, as well as more recent pictures from family reunions, the most recent being from my wife's birthday party. Alongside the pictures there were letters that he never sent her. The first one dated 2 months before I met her. The last one was also the same date of her birthday party. There was one that stood out the most was one from after I started dating her. He wrote that his time had passed and, since my happiness was as important as his own, he would watch over us. I'll keep his box safe since it isn't my secret to reveal. I cheated to get my bachelor's and my master's degree. Yeah, I cheated. I didn't write any of my papers. I didn't do any of the work myself. I stole a lot of work, took only classes anyone I knew did and used all their work for it with minor changes. I made it through 6 years and got 2 degrees. I got a scholarship out of high school by cheating. I cheated during the SAT. I cheated most of my life and I feel a little bad but not really. Thanks to a couple real ones for holding it down for me. Wouldn't have made it this far without you. I slept with my daughter's ex-boyfriend. He got me pregnant and I had an abortion. They got back together and got married. This was back in, let me think, maybe 1997. I was 38 and my daughter was 18. And she was dating Harry, who was 24. I was an alcoholic and dabbled in other drugs, mostly cocaine. I was not a good person, let alone mother. Not like I was abusive to my daughter or anything, but I was generally inattentive and cared more about my alcohol and drugs than her, especially in her teen years. I'm 14 years sober now. I disapproved of my daughter dating Harry, but I never told her why. He would flirt with me, constantly, and the age difference also creeped me out. Also, he was an alcoholic and drug user, just like me. She broke up with him over his alcoholism. Soon after she moved away, not too far, but regardless she didn't live with me anymore. Harry kept calling me and asking if we wanted to get drinks. I turned him down, but then one day he said he had a bunch of coke and I couldn't resist. He came over, we did the coke, and we ended up having sex. He was a very good looking guy. He looked a lot like that ridiculous 80s Justin Bieber picture that was on the front page today. That is actually what made me think about him. For the next few months, maybe like 3 to 4 months, he would sometimes come over and we would have sex and do drugs and get drunk together. Any drug addict knows what that is like to have a drug addict buddy in that way. Then I got pregnant. I knew it was by him. I had sex without a condom a few times stupidly. I never told him I was pregnant, and I went and got the abortion and kept it a secret. Anyways, I stopped seeing him after that. It was too weird. I also got sober for like 4 months before relapsing. Fast forward 2 years and my daughter contacts me and tells me that she got back with Harry and that he is fully sober. I was mortified, honestly. He was gonna tell her that we slept together and she is going to hate me for life. They came over one day and said hi, and when my daughter was gone, Harry told me that there is no reason to tell her about what happened. I agreed. It's been 16 years of marriage on their part. They have a kid together. Harry got cancer, then beat it. I got sober, that's basically it. I don't see them very often. They live in Texas and I live on the East Coast. But whenever I do, there is always that tension between me and Harry. It's literally the first thing that comes to either of our minds. I can just tell. Not like sexual tension. Like, why did we have to do that? What the fuck is wrong with us? Kind of tension. I think about this often, especially when I see my grandson. I always think that could have been my son if things had gone differently, but wow, what a disaster that would have been if I decided to keep that child. Before I went to bed, I called my girlfriend with a low battery and told her I'll talk to her until my phone died. She began talking about The Bachelor and I pretended my phone died by hanging up. My brother beat me up so I ruined his relationship. My brother and I have a very bad relationship. There's a lot of yelling and cussing but we never got physical until one night he came home very angry and just started punching and kicking me. Our parents weren't home so I guess that's why he felt brave. I ended up with a busted lip, a black eye and a bunch of bruises all over my body. After that our father sent him away for a while. A few days later I used my mom's phone to accidentally call his girlfriend and left it on while I talked to my mom how worried I was that he was capable to beat up his little sister. Imagine what he could do to his girlfriend. When I was in middle school my friend, Jay, told me that he liked a girl, L. L then told me the next day that she liked Jay. But they both told me not to tell anyone. So I didn't. LMAO. I got a girl deported because we got into an argument. Years ago I was browsing Facebook one day and I saw a girl I went to high school with arguing with some other people. I was browsing through the comments and noticed they were all using some really incorrect terms and had some really bad misconceptions about the topic. I wanted to hop in there really quickly and just clarify the terms they were using and show them what terms they should be using so we could have an informed debate. She got so mad at me and told me that I was trying to discredit her and make her look stupid. She made a Facebook status about me in a long rant and was making some pretty hurtful claims. She then blocked me so that I couldn't respond to the claims. I made a fake account and added her as a friend again and found an old status that she made about how her parents illegally brought her over the border as a child. I submitted the photo of her status to a few government agencies and then finished out the school year and forgot about it. She never came back from summer break and some of her close friends mentioned that she had been deported with her family. I regret doing that because she couldn't speak Spanish because her parents wanted her to live here and truly be an English-speaking American, and now she is in a country that she doesn't know and she can't speak the language well or at all. I intentionally ask women well above the legal age limit, alcohol, to show me their ID. I work as a cashier at a grocery store. Whenever a middle-aged woman, who clearly looks older than 21, purchases alcohol from me, I intentionally ask them to show me their ID. I do this because somewhere deep down I feel that if I ask them for their ID it creates an impression that they look far younger than they are. I do this every chance I get, regardless of how busy the line is, in hopes of making them feel younger and possibly happier. I lied about my height for most of high school, so once I stopped growing I was at a happy 6 foot even, but that wasn't enough for me. I needed more. I would tell everyone I was 5 foot 10 inches. I noticed there was a large population of guys who claimed to be 6 foot but were just under the mark, so to really drive the point home, I'd argue that I'm under 6 foot and, since they're shorter than me, they can't be 6 feet tall. Watching the panic in their eyes as they tried to defend their height was the highlight of my high school experience. My husband and I decided to indulge in a little cocaine tonight and used it to clean the shit out of our house. My husband, 33, and I, 28, have been married for almost 6 years and together for about 9. No children besides our puppies, but we hope to have some in the near future. While we are not regular hard drug users, we do like to have a little fun once in a while. We've done cocaine together a handful of times during the course of our relationship. Always together, always at home. So I guess you could say we are responsible drug users, if you agree that such a thing exists. Regardless, it would probably cause a lot of shock to my friends and family if they knew about this periodic indulgence of ours. We are otherwise pretty square and boring. I should probably feel bad, but I don't. My house is super clean and the both of us actually enjoyed having something to use our cocaine energy on. I'm about to take a really hot shower with my hot ass husband and then we are probably going to have sex for a few hours. Life is pretty fucking great.
Belly, let's go, baby.
Demonetization is dropped. People who have pretended to fall asleep. What is something interesting you've overheard? I remember way back I couldn't sleep on Christmas Eve. You know, being a little kid and all. So during this sleepless night, where I guess my parents thought I was asleep, I heard my dad say, "Where do you think we should hide the new puppy?" That was What's something someone did that instantly made you lose your crush on them? My crush knew I was attracted to her, but she made fun of my little sister, different last name, in front of me, and then looked to me in approval. Only I make fun of my little sister. Damn straight. I had an insane vegan girlfriend, whose mentally unstable sister told me she didn't want me to think we were friends. Her mom was nice, but the dad thought I was weird. Sorry for being high-functioning autistic. Can't do anything about that. Their family had 13 cats, 3 birds, and 2 dogs. They believed in ghosts, and would all sleep in the same bed when they thought the ghosts in their house were being extra uppity. They were the ducking weird ones. Hate it when my ghosts get all uppity. She was super serious about astrology. So did what every horoscope told her, and it was mind-numbing. My husband's ex-GF dumped him because her horoscope said it wasn't meant to be. I'm so thankful. 12 wonderful years and she messages him every once in a while in a sea of regret. Started arguing in favor of FGM. I mean, wow, was that a fast crush kill? FGM. Female genital mutilation. WTF. What argument can you possibly have in favor of that? Little girls line up down the road with their mothers, excited for it. Excuse me, what the duck? Dude said something like, "I can't be just friends with girls, they all have crushes on me." Stopped crushing on him out of spite. This made me lol. You're my hero. Face with tears of joy. He wasn't that wrong then. Yeah, she kind of proved his point, to be honest. Them. Hey, lem show you this song I think you'll like. Me. Goes to pull out headphones. Them. Plays entirety of song on speaker at a loud volume while we are on a public bus. This is my own personal hell. Nope. It's more like all of our public hell now. First text conversation was full of "I'm so random" humor. It went sorta like this. Her. Hey I. Me. Hey, what's up? Her. I'm just eating juicy bread with my friend. Me. What is juicy bread? Her. Yay. It's this type of bread you eat behind a dumpster in the apocalypse. Me. I see. Her. But you have to eat it before the cowboy rides up on his unicorn. I think I broke my teeth from clenching my jaw on that one. I remember being this person back from 6th to 8th grade. Cringe. Whenever he talked to me it was only about himself, and how great he is, better than any other boys, he is different from other boys. Was his name Gaston? No one brags like Gaston. Gatson. You blew it. No one spells like Gatson. Had this happen to an ex as we walked down the street. She made fun of 2 14-year-old looking girls, for playing music and singing walking down the street together, right in their face, a full-grown woman. Pathetic. I should have ended it there, but thought,